Like when you see this Epstein shit, you want to get a little worked up about that. I'm down. I'm with you. I get worked up about that too.
You're down to get worked up about Epstein.
Fuck sure. Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
It's like the worst crime you can commit. Blatantly, brazenly, on our soil, on other people's soils, tens of thousands of fucking kids. All these powerful people clearly involved. A lot, maybe not, by the way. He would just get around people.
Yeah.
But which ones? You know? And watching that, you talk about those elites or whatever, this is exactly where people are 100% right to feel that anger towards they and like these groups that they think run the world, and they might be right. You know, when you see things like this just blatantly covered up and then buried in the news cycle over and over and over again, it makes you sick. Like, they do it right in front of you, John. I've been tracking this since the very beginning of this case. Jeffrey Epstein unalived himself in the early Saturday morning hours of an August weekend. What's the deadest news month of the year?
I'm going to assume August.
August.
Okay.
What's the deadest news time of the cycle every week? Friday night into Saturday morning. Yeah. The story's dead by Monday morning. Okay, he does that. That's August 2019. Ghislaine Maxwell, her trial happens November, December 2021. This is peak COVID, right? The week after Christmas, the deadest week of the year, New Year's Eve was going to be on Friday that year. The judge ordered all the jury wanted to go home and take a break. She ordered them to stay there to come to a verdict. They come to a verdict on Wednesday, December 29th, on the deadest news week of the year. January 3rd is Monday, 5 days later. No one's talking about it. No one talks about the fact that the judge, she was convicted of trafficking children to no one. And the judge ordered all the records sealed forever, which some of that may have changed now with the Epstein files. I'm still not sure on that, so check me in the comments. But that's a crazy order for a judge to give about one of the most prolific sex traffickers of all time.
Sure.
Then, early Saturday morning hours of February 2022, President's Day weekend, a 3-day weekend in America, Jean-Luc Brunel, Epstein's chief fucking trafficker in Europe, unalives himself in his prison cell in France. Story's dead by Tuesday because it was the deadest time of the week.
Wow.
Then they go and, remember the whole dance Kash Patel and Bondi were doing all spring? Oh, we got all the files. They're on my desk. It's crazy shit. And then they tried to make a left turn and say, no, it's actually nothing. And all of that, when they came out and were public about it, you had the blow up in June with Trump and Elon and everything, which was on a Friday, by the way. Just saying. But, all of that, they released it on, they had Kash come out on July 2nd or July 3rd of July 4th week.
That is wild.
Everyone's gone. And now the best part is Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Ro Khanna, Republicans, Democrats, they're all pushing to get these files released. Trump's he's running people against them. He turned on Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was she literally used to wear a mask when they were required to that had Trump's name on it. She had his name on her mouth. Right? No pun intended.
Right.
And, he turns on her and starts calling her a traitor for standing up for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. What world are we living in here? He fights the Epstein files coming out all fall. Is this is a Democratic hoax, which is the funniest thing I've ever, of all the claims he's ever made, that's the most ridiculous claim I've ever heard. And then when do they find it? When does he sign it? And when do they get released? They get released on Friday, December 19th. They were supposed to be released in the morning. They were late. Thomas Massie was tweeting about it during the day. They haven't put him out yet. They put him out late afternoon of that Friday ahead of Christmas week. Yeah. A week later, the Somali fucking fraud documentary drops on the 26th. The entire right wing on Twitter starts retweeting the fuck out of it, sending it to the moon with that whole investigation. And a week after that, we invade Venezuela. Who's talking about the Epstein files anymore? They do it right in front of your fucking face. And you say, please, sir, may I have some more? We all do. It's ridiculous.
Okay, wow. If you ever need to convince somebody of anything, just ask Julian to do it for you, because that was it right there. And I'm going to say this, and then I want to ask more questions about the Epstein stuff. I do believe, not just with this, people like to piece puzzles together after the fact to make an assumption of what they, again, I think we give a lot of credit. If that was the plan, that would be pretty spectacular for them to do. And it would be wild for them to try to pull it off. I think, maybe this is just my perspective, a lot of what we see and a lot of what we say in the news especially is like, oh, well, of course that happened, but it happened and then we said it. It wasn't like we predicted. And I guess you could have sat back and said, I guarantee something's going to blow up after this Christmas week to then cover up what just happened with Epstein. I'm sure you could have said that, right?
Run the tape.
I'm sure you did. No, I'm sure you did.
Run the tape.
I guarantee you did. But for it to be true, I don't know if that would be wild for them to say, we're going to go now invade Venezuela at the perfect time just to cover this stuff up. And I know you believe that because I see it on your face. But let's assume that is true, right?
They were ready to invade Venezuela last summer, bro.
Sure. But now do you think...
And by the way, just to correct you, I'm gonna say there is a strong possibility.
Right.
Venezuela part's the case.
Yeah.
Some of the other news cycle stuff, I can tell you, guarantee you. Go watch, and you know, I was Nick Shirley. The first podcast he ever did was my show a year and a half ago. I know Nick. He did a very good investigation on the daycare fraud in Minnesota. Yeah. And yeah, it's something that should go viral. Should it go viral to 150 million views on YouTube because the entire apparatus behind Donald Trump starts calling for him to get a global fucking peace prize for this investigation? No.
You know,
and I would say that to Nick's face. That's not his fault.
Yeah.
You know, he gets a lot of blame for this. That's not his fault. But that's called changing the narrative. That's what these people do.
I will then go back and agree with you because a lot of times you feel things in the moment and then you kind of brush it off. Like when the Somali stuff was happening in the daycare, so I was like, all right, that's interesting and it's kind of fucked up. And I thought about it for maybe 20 minutes and then I moved on with my day. And then I kept seeing, and I thought maybe I was missing something. I was like, all right, maybe I don't know enough and that's why everybody else cares and I don't. And then I was like, I don't know if there's a lot here. I feel like what you just said is pretty accurate. Is it newsworthy? Yes. Is it hundreds of millions of views worthy? What are they doing? They're making money in an illegal way. Okay, that happens every single day. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was missing something. And so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's just like you talk about, and you're 100% right to say this, by the way. It's easy to go hindsight 2020 and create a pattern on stuff.
Which a lot of people do with conspiracies.
I started making this pattern after the second one when Guillen was found guilty on the 29th of December when the judge ordered those fucking people to stay there all messed up and everything to come to a conclusion of the most important trial that she was ever going to oversee. And then Jean-Luc Brunel died on a Saturday and I went right on fucking cue. Yeah. And then they released these fucking files or they released what they were saying weren't the files because there's not really anything here right before July 4th. And then they came out and fought the Epstein files all the way to make sure they're released on Friday, December 19th before Christmas week. It's how, when you talk to people in power positions, I'll give you an example. They understand how to play the news cycle. Chuck Schumer, he's been senator since fucking Vietnam, right? Chuck Schumer, who's right here in New York, has done a press conference every Sunday morning in front of whatever cameras and microphones there will be on some fucking street in New York every week for the last fucking 4 centuries. You know why he does that? Because he knows that Monday morning in the news, that's what they're going to be replaying from the day before, and that's what starts off the news week. People play into the news week because at the end of the day, and I fall into the same trap sometimes as well. I'm not just separating myself from this. We move to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And, I try not to do that. I feel like I'm decent at not doing that, but sometimes I do.
How about this? I was going to ask you, you mentioned Venezuela, right? I genuinely, that's been 2 weeks or however long it's been, it would be old news for us to talk about it right now on a podcast. People are already over that. And I don't even know what's happening after the fact, right? Everybody had this doomsday prepping of Venezuela is going to lead to this, this, and that. And we were only there for the oil, which is probably true. And now nobody even talks about it anymore. It's not even making news. This whole thing with the ICE stuff. If there was not one more murder ICE would not be a thing in a month. We wouldn't be talking about this stuff anymore.
We'd move on to something else.
If,
Yeah, I think
if it
that's
wasn't,
fair.
if nothing else came of it and there was no other murders and stuff like that, we wouldn't care because it's been going on since 2002. We just decided now to make a mess of it.
Right, now it's the thing. Now it's the Elmo meme.
It's the Elmo
and
meme.
that's
Exactly.
and I understand why it is on some level for sure. But
Right.
like,
I don't want to say that
yeah,
we don't care.
we
It's
will
not-
move to your point. What the greater point you're making here is we'll move to the next thing
Exactly.
that suddenly everyone's pissed off about. And like with Venezuela, I'll give Trump this for sure. He's the only guy that was honest about it right after the fact. He's like, well, they got a lot of oil.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
He's bringing
the
all the oil
guy's
executives
real.
in
The
3
guy-
days
yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Like whereas Pete Hegseth is like, it's about the drug. Shut the fuck up,
Come
Pete.
on,
They
dude. Yeah.
Listen, I'm not saying they don't move drugs, but they basically move 3 baggies and an 8-ball compared to what Mexico's doing. And we've
Exactly.
declared them terrorists, and I don't see fucking drones hitting them or pulling their leader out
And
of
we
there.
could in within a night, just like we did with Venezuela.
I know for a fact we could, actually. I'm willing to say that. I won't explain more with that. No,
Right.
I'm not talking about Shine Bomb with that, to be clear, but with cartels, for sure.
Of
We
course.
could do that. Not all of them, but, certain leaders, for sure.
I think, again, like people have said, oh, we took out a dictator and the secondary bonus was that we got the oil. No, obviously the priority was the oil and then the bonus was we took out a dictator. I think it's all fine and dandy so long as we don't repeat what we did in Iraq.
Well, that's the thing, John. Everyone needed to have, and this is our problem with society, moving from thing to thing. Everyone needed to have an ironclad opinion on
Exactly,
that
dude.
the moment it happened.
Yep.
And I'm very happy with what I consistently said right after that, which is that in all likelihood, I'm going to need 1 to 2 years to be able to give any semblance of an actual opinion on what this is. Right off the bat, there are multiple things that are true at the same time, and it's like an even scorecard. Donald Trump did break a campaign promise and went in and did a George W. Bush type potential regime change here.
Yep.
Don't like that. It was also a perfectly executed mission with no United States casualties. I've seen imagery from the ground, like very fucking well done. I think I sent you that.
Yeah.
And now we wait, because when you look at Venezuela, it is a very different thing. And this is not to make a judgment on it yet, but it is a very different thing from Iraq. Or maybe it's not. On the surface, here is how it actually is different.
Yeah.
Iraq, it was a socio-cultural religious situation.
Right.
You had Sunni Muslims, the Baathists, Saddam, in charge of Iraq, in a region surrounded by over 1 billion Arabs, most of whom are Muslim, who are Sunnis or Shias, including a not-so-good friend right there that was a Shia in Iran and their government. When the United States went in, they did one of the most retarded fucking things you could do. They said, all right, no Sunnis are allowed in the government. The Baathists are gone. It's only going to be Shias now. So they also then had to blow up the country, basically, and they created an insurgency as a result, which ended up, Saddam Hussein was an awful guy, but they made the situation way worse because they created a big vacuum for Al-Qaeda that became ISIS to come in and be like, look at what the gringos are doing. Let's go.
Yeah.
So it was culturally a powder keg. Venezuela doesn't have that. Venezuela was a communist country
Exactly. Yep.
where most of the people, I can tell you, whether they're liberal or conservative, most of the people statistically hated the leadership and had no hope. They had the biggest refugee movement of any country over the past decade. It probably will end up being surpassed by Ukraine within a couple years, but like Ukraine still hasn't surpassed it. They've lost 9 million people from that country over the last decade.
And I'll let you go. Just want to. The other difference too is like Venezuela saw prosperity so quickly in their past.
Yes.
They lived that.
Yes.
So to see like if we were to go through and have a communist nation and see this like turmoil, we would be super sensitive to it and we would hate that. Whereas I feel like Iraq never, and they did have a prosperous nation prior, but it wasn't anything like Venezuela.
Yeah, they lived under a bad regime. It doesn't mean that there weren't some people there doing okay.
Right. Very different.
But Saddam was a sadistic bad guy. It's just like, what do you replace that with?
Yeah.
And so in Venezuela, you do not have the threat of like a cultural holy war happening in the region.
Yeah.
That is a big, big difference here. That said, multiple things can go wrong here. Okay, right now the Venezuelans, yay, USA, just like a lot of the Iraqis were, by the way. Yeah. Very excited. I mean, my editor, Christian, the Venezuelan, he was watching it like it was the fucking Super Bowl.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we were worried. Like the next day, we couldn't get a hold of him. And I got a hold of him. He's like, Julian, it was crazy, man. The Delta, I love the USA, bro. The Delta comes right above. We go outside because he's like right in on the hillside there looking down in central Caracas.
Oh, that's crazy.
So he goes, he like hears the Deltas, goes outside and just sees like,
no
and
way.
And they're like, yeah, like, because they're like, holy shit. Because like he would text me and be like, oh, Julian, I'm so sorry. Electricity went off for 13 hours, you know, like, because this was Maduro's regime.
Right, can you
like
imagine
they couldn't even
like
have that. So they were very, very happy, to be very clear. And that is the overwhelming feeling in the country. And right now it's a honeymoon. You know, the Americans, Donald Trump came in, we loved, we did, all that. Now, here's another scenario. What if you get a year or two down the line, a bunch of these Southern Exxon oil executives come in and say, we got your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
Contigo, right? Amigo. And suddenly the Venezuelans who haven't had any access to their oil income for 25 years now taste that oil income, which is theirs. They're sitting on the biggest oil reserves in the world. And suddenly, this is just human nature, bro. Suddenly they're like, yeah, we don't want 40, 50% of it, whatever it is. This is ours. Fuck that.
You're saying from America's perspective.
I'm saying from the Venezuelan
perspective.
perspective.
I see what you're saying.
Why these gringos coming in here and taking what's ours? Because now they've settled in to the new world. I'm not saying this is wrong either. I'm saying this is human nature and how they may feel. And now suddenly they might be like, wait a minute. The imperialist American nation came in here to make us one of their fucking colonies. Now who propagandizes that? Every other country around the world who already propagandizes all of our social media, including in this own country, to turn us against America at all ends, including in some places where we don't deserve to have that happen. I completely agree. Right? And other places where maybe we do. Yeah. But either way, you don't want to see outside influence, but we also do it to them, to be fair. Like, so, you know, it's just some underground game. Now you see some sort of civil unrest. What if in this whole process, you know, the whole transfer of power also doesn't go great? And suddenly, you know, the fact that the CIA, who, in fairness to the CIA in this situation, was doing their job, they had people inside the government. Oh, is this just a CIA coup? Like all the other ones that have failed over the years all over the world. Yeah. And now, what if also in that whole process, it creates a precedent such that instead of the Iranian people, now we're back in the powder keg where the holy war is. Instead of the Iranian people overthrowing their government, there's some sort of U.S.-led regime change that happens in the region because they've set a precedent that, you know what, America's back. The good old George W. days of we gonna find you and we gonna kill you. Yeah. They're here. And now it's just, we're gonna find you and we're gonna kill you. And it's like, now we get the East involved. Now China and Russia are involved. Now they get to fully say Americans imperialists. And then what if China decides, fuck, we got to take Taiwan now? Because the U.S. is doing that. So let's start loading up the war chest. It's like the old Boardwalk Empire scene. He got a gun. He got a gun. Everybody got guns. Right. You don't want a Mexican standoff when you're talking about East versus West. So yes, Venezuela, and I'm not making light of the Venezuelan people. I'm just talking about this from like a worldwide impact. Right now, it's a canary. Is it in the coal mine or is it fucking floating around not getting eaten by the falcons, hopefully out there? I don't know. Yeah. But I have to let this play out. And I can tell you it's either going to be Donald Trump rolled the dice, broke a campaign promise, but did it way more effectively than George W. Bush. No boots on the ground yet. That's very important. What if he has to put boots on the ground? That's another huge problem. Yeah. No more than George W. Bush, help create peace, open up economies, allow countries to handle their elections instead of us handling it for them, and created a new fucking speak softly and carry a big stick diplomacy for America without being imperialist. And we're looking here 2 years later like, give him a peace prize. Right. That's a possibility. The other possibility is he's George W. Bush 3.0.
Yeah, worse.
And there is a middle ground that could exist. unlikely.
Yeah.
These things tend to break hard one way or the other. So all these people that had to put out a fucking 12-paragraph tweet, you know, the night of January 2nd, when this is happening or whatever it was, you know, to be like, this is exactly where I stand and I'm not coming off this hill. It's intellectually dishonest at best and brain rot at worst. And so I have to let these things play out. And I've said it under every president that I've ever lived under, and I stick to it. You know, of course, I have criticized pretty much every president because I'm not sure I've had a good president in my lifetime. But like, I'm rooting for all of them when they're in there. They're the president of my country.
Of course. Yeah.
So when they're in there, I'm rooting for things to work out. I was not rooting for the Afghanistan withdrawal to be what it was, okay? To sit there and be able to say, see, told you.
Right.
Biden's not even alive. I wasn't rooting for that. That's what happened. So now I criticize it. Yeah. But like, I am rooting for this situation with what Donald Trump has done to turn out for the best. Sure. And for other decisions around the world to not be made because of the precedent that we're potentially setting with what we did there. But to your original point, yeah, it's like, it's old news in 3 fucking days.
Yeah,
because it's just like,
we're just on to the next.
Then we're on to the next.
But that's the point. Like you call it brain rot for a reason because these people don't even care. You're just picking something to get angry about because you have to say, I told you. People in politics, or if you care about politics, you'd rather your side win than America win, which is the weirdest thing. Again, if you voted Democrat and Trump does something good, you're going to spin it as it's something bad. Or you're going to say, hey, well, it's going to lead to this, this, and that. You'd rather watch your life get worse than accept the fact that maybe he did something right and that we're moving in the right direction.
I remember like, God, I hope I don't misremember this detail and mix it up with something else. But I got 2 examples from the last 2 presidencies. There was something related, I think, check me in the comments on this, to like the CHIPS Act vis-a-vis China that Biden did to restrict some sort of like IP theft essentially on China. And it was very in line with what Donald Trump was thinking on China. Right. And I was like, all right, W. Right. Then a couple weeks ago, Donald Trump signed, I believe it was an executive order. Again, I'm trying to remember this, so check me in the comments, but fucking phenomenal legislation that is actually democratic in nature rather than more Republican oriented. And I'm oversimplifying it, but effectively he is going to curb the ability of large companies like BlackRock to buy up residential housing and control the market as they have been able to do and have been incentivized to do. It's evil by incentivization rather than evil by plan, in my opinion.
Yeah. It is very non-Trump-like if you were anti-Trump. If you saw that, like you said, it's very democratic for him to even come out and say this. And now people still are finding ways to get mad.
Like that's something AOC would want.
He's only doing it for this, and that. What do you mean? Why? First of all, why do you care? Why? He's still doing it. Yep. He's still doing what you wanted him to do.
Yep. You can't have a win. And it's just, it is. And I've talked to so many people who have to like go down and try to talk to politicians and get both sides on board with something. And they just all want to hit their head against the table afterwards if they're not like overly political.
I can't imagine.
Because they're just like, it's all about, well, how's this going to spin for us?
Yeah.
How are they going to lose too?
Yeah, again, we can go on for days about that, but it blows my mind. I think a lot of people got to get their head out of the gutter and realize that you want your country to win and prosper. It doesn't make sense.
100%, man.
What do you? I mean, because you're very well read and you study this stuff. What has been the last good president this country has had?
Oh, I'm gonna piss people off with this one. Not good man. Solid president who certainly had some big mistakes during his run as president. Bill Clinton was a moderate. If you look at him politically, now he made some awful mistakes in his presidency. He repealed Glass-Steagall, which was the first step to creating what became the financial crisis, which was a continuation of some stuff Reagan had done, and then Bush really fucking hit the bombs on that. And he also signed the 94 crime bill, which was awful. Not to exonerate him of that, but he did that when the Republican midterms and like, I forget the term for it, but like when Newt Gingrich came in and, you know, it was like a red wave or whatever. And he was like trying to meet across the aisle. And actually, to Newt's credit, he has later come out and said that that was a mistake. Like he even appeared in, I believe, in that documentary, The 13th, talking about, made some wrong moves there in 94, which, you know, too late, but I can at least appreciate that. But, you know, Clinton, obviously, Epstein client, dog, blackmailed up to the T, was fucking flying coke in Demeter, Arkansas while he was governor of Arkansas. You got the Clinton kill list. You got all these awful, awful things. As a legislator, he was a real fucking deal maker. And people don't want to hear that. But like, there were a lot of moderate policies. In fact, I remember my grandfather, who was just one of those guys who, like, whatever the R was, he was voting for the R, right?
Yeah.
You know, just like the Democrats did not exist to him.
Yeah.
He fucking hated Clinton when Clinton was president. And years later, he was like, you know, awful guy. Not the worst president. And maybe it's just because, like, we've just had so much shit that it's like, man, that shit didn't smell as bad.
Right.
You know, but it's like uncomfortable to say because of the guy's personal record and again because of some of the legislative horrible mistakes he did make. But like, all these presidents are making a million mistakes. I mean, the bar is low enough. The last guy wasn't even alive when he was in there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, you know, using the term good for a president, I mean, maybe you couldn't say someone was good since like John Kennedy, effectively. But like, if you're talking about my lifetime, then, you know, historically, Bill had a lot of moderation.
But why do you think it's so hard for an American president to be quote unquote good? Do you think it's our fault and what we're doing? Like you said, you can't have a win anymore.
Part of it's the news cycle, for sure.
Yeah.
In 1995, 1996, these 24-hour news stations like CNN and Fox are born, and then the internet and social media comes born about a little more than a decade later, right? The social media. And so you create constant opinions from everyone. People are exposed, like the emperor's clothes are off effectively. All the things that used to be backroom deals are now reported. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. It's what people think and what the narrative is. So there's a lot of things that change that cause us to have this feeling. And I think about this a lot because I'm very prejudiced against politicians. I'll freely admit it. Like, they're one group of people that, you know, I'm extremely prejudiced against. I don't welcome them on my show. They're not allowed. You know, and I have that's the one group of people I have no problem just eviscerating on my show, regardless of party. But sometimes I wonder, I'm like, man, why am I that cynical about it? And I think a lot of my cynicism is fair. Maybe some of it's not. Yeah. Maybe sometimes it's like, you know, the world isn't as perfect as you want it to be, Julian. But I also always remind myself that the world is not this perfect place of like it's always A or B. You know, there's things that happen and there's decisions that got to be made where it's like, what's the least worst decision?
Right.
You want it to be what's the best decision, but what's the least worst? And that can be morally very, very dangerous. But it's a reality.
Yeah, and maybe I'm oversimplifying this, but it's very hard to see the white in a black and white picture if all you're looking for is the black. You know, so for America, we don't have a lot of patriotism anymore. But during the days of Kennedy, we did, you know? And so like we wanted to root for him. We wanted to see him do well. So even his mistakes, maybe we didn't hold it to him that much. And then his wins, we glorified. And maybe that's why it's a little bit harder for us to see a win or a good president. But it's also, I feel the same way. Like we have this narrative now in America that throughout in the entire world, politicians are corrupt and they're bad people. But why is that always true? Like that politician had to have started as a good person at some point. Did they get corrupt, or were they truly born bad people and their mission is to become bad and have a lot of power and fuck a lot of people over? I don't think that seems to be the case for everybody.
I agree. I don't think, we've been talking about this recently on different podcasts, so I'm fascinated by it. I don't think anyone's born evil.
No.
I think there are some people who have certain parts of their DNA that are predisposed to be able to go that way when an action is done upon them versus other people, for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I've always been obsessed with environments and what environments do to you. Let's take Xi Jinping as an example, who's a totalitarian ruler of China, an objectively awful guy, very smart guy. Very, very smart. That's a mistake people make sometimes when they hate someone, call them a dictator and all this, which is all true. Yeah. But then they discount their strengths, which is a huge mistake because you have to know who your enemy is. Xi Jinping, obviously very smart, well-educated guy, but his father was a member of the Communist Party of China. And I forget what happened, but he was disgraced and I believe kicked out of the party when Xi was a little boy. And so as punishment, Xi had to hold a sign in the middle of the town square when he was 6 or 7 years old that basically said something along the lines of, my father is a traitor to China and the Communist Party, and I'm his, bastard son or whatever.
Wow.
And everyone in the town had to come by and jeer him, including his mother, who I believe spit on him to go by, which I'm sure she didn't want to do, but like, it's like a iron fist force. And so when I look at that kid's psychology, the little Xi Jinping, what do you think that did to him?
Of course, yeah, of course, exactly.
He took that all in. He's crying there. It's a traumatic moment. The whole town, the fucking bakers coming by and spitting on you, your mom's spitting on you. They're all saying your dad's a traitor. You're the son of a horrible man. And he looked around and he went, all these motherfuckers. Okay. I see you. Yeah. All right. You want to shove me in a locker right now? You want to fucking bully me? I'm going to own all you. I'm going to fucking own you. And he made it his life's goal to study and work and take over the very thing that his own father was kicked out of. It's straight up fucking House of Cards shit. It's Game of Thrones shit. It's biblical shit. And so you have to understand what drives a person like that. He wasn't evil. He was a little boy who was pushed right over the cliff, and he said, fuck it, here we go. So I think that people, I always think about it, what if they fucking let Hitler into art school? Whoever the asshole is who turned him down,
can you imagine?
What the fuck?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, but it's like the butterfly effect. It could be as simple as that. Like one minor failure as a youth, that fucks you up forever. You get embarrassed in like second grade about your shirt, your changed kit. Like that's serious.
Yes.
You have a parent says one bad thing to you when you're a child, and your whole life trajectory could be very different, or the opposite. But it seems like the opposite isn't always as true. Like it seems like the negative always is way more impactful than the positive for kids, especially in their upbringing.
It is, because it's the pain that you feel. The positive is a moment, a quick dopamine. The pain is something that lives there and makes you question yourself over and over.
I could reflect on being embarrassed at 11 years old and still feel the pain today.
Oh,
whereas I don't remember any of the positive things. You know,
I wake up in the middle of the night with cringe sometimes.
So I swear to God, things I've like said or done, I'm like, why would you ever do that? I'm like, oh, I was 11.
Yeah, like where you're like, oh,
yeah,
you know?
Don't do it again.
And yeah, there are. I try to be self-aware of that. I'm sure I fall short sometimes, but like in my own life, I've gotten myself to the point where overall I do these things for me because I want to do them. And like my dream of what I wanted to do starting this day one when I did was for me.
Yeah.
But there are internal drives in me that will not go away, that are driven by all the people who said I couldn't do things, all the people who said to shoo, all the people who doubted me, all the people who, decided that I wasn't good enough, all the people who made me a backup plan, all the women that maybe could have had me that didn't take that opportunity. Like these things, they stick there. I'm an only child too, right? So I was always on my own island looking at land, seeing who else was there. And so there is no doubt that there's an internal drive of me where it's like, you said what? You did what to me? You passed me over? Me. When I put all this work in to do this, or I showed you that I wanted to get this thing, I wanted to be better at this, and you said, fuck off, I'm going to show you, bitch. I'm going to show you. And that is ingrained deep inside my soul. And like, I'm a fucking competitor. I don't want to win. I want to dominate.
Right.
And I really want to dominate the fucking thoughts and minds of the people who said you won't.
Huh. I wonder if you'd be different now if you didn't have people telling you, or would you just be, because you're probably not sensitive in a bad way, aware of these people that are telling you can't, whereas like maybe somebody else just like kind of like, water off a duck's back. They don't really give a shit about it.
If I don't care about it, then I don't care.
Right.
If I walk by a ping pong table and some guy says to me, I'll bet I could fucking lap you in this, I'll fuck you up, I'd be like, yeah, I'll bet you could. I could give two shits.
I bet you're wrong. I bet if somebody really pushed you, you're like, I'm going to be Marty Supreme.
That's where I'm different than like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is the most competitive son of a bitch all time. He could walk by like the Asian table tennis champion who's like, Mr. Jordan, I will kill you. And he'll be like, fuck you, kid, hop on the plate. And actually think he's going to win.
Right.
I'm not like that. I don't give a shit about ping pong. All due respect. Yeah. Right. But like, if I give a shit about it and I want to do it and you're like, yo, I'm going to beat you at that. I'm like, the fuck you are.
Yeah.
Or like, yo, you're never going to do this thing. Not only am I going to do that, I'm going to double it. I'm going to triple it. And I'm going to win.
That's my point. I think it would take one moment of you to say, you know what? I want to be really good at ping pong for you to now become obsessed with ping pong. And then like, you do not want to lose to ping pong.
Maybe. Yeah, absolutely. Like if I really wanted it.
And then those voices would get a lot louder.
For sure.
You know, you've just picked this path of being a podcaster. Now you're listening to everybody that has doubted you in the past as fuel, versus like if you didn't take this seriously, you wouldn't give a fuck about people saying.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. Like I do have that line.
There's like hyperfixation on, you know. Like
yes, there's a white line that you cross over, and you're playing the game.
Yes, exactly.
If I don't cross over that line to play the game, I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that'd be a healthy way to. Like I don't think Michael Jordan lives in a healthy way like that. Personally,
no way.
Right, but when it came to his craft. You know, practice like you've never won, play like you've never lost, you know, dominate, go fucking chug 10 beers, play golf and smoke stogies all day, and then give fucking Charles Oakley 61 in the Garden. Like, that shit riles me up.
Yeah.
And that's why there was just no one, the closest thing to him was in basketball was Kobe. You know, there's just that mentality. Like, and Kobe's another one who's passed over a bunch, you know, and they're like, you know, you're good. You're not that good, kid. Over and over and over again in his life. And he was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know, he was not born. Kobe Bryant, to be clear, was one of the best athletes in the world. Let's not get it twisted. No. The NBA athletes are literally the best athletes in the world overall. He was never a top 20 athlete in the NBA. Like if you looked at his splits of what he could do physically, just purely physically, no talent, no work. He didn't have Allen Iverson's vertical, you know. I would say some of the quickness of Jordan, he didn't have that. But he was very talented. And he put the work in.
Yeah.
And he had the craft and the studying. I remember I used to have at my desk at my old job, I used to have this picture of Iverson and Kobe, where Iverson's back is to you and he's trying to cross up Kobe and Kobe's just studying him. And it was an article that Kobe had written for, I forget what it was called, but the place, like the Athletes Tribune maybe.
Okay.
And this is maybe a decade ago. He wrote this article about how obsessed he was with Allen Iverson when he came into the league. Because Allen Iverson, who's my favorite player of all time, as a Sixers fan, Allen Iverson was the #1 overall pick in Kobe's class. Right? Kobe was number 13. And he respected Allen. But like Allen was the guy that just showed up and put his heart out on the court. He wasn't necessarily like, he always got shit because of the practice speech. He practiced, but like he wasn't obsessed like Kobe was to be in the gym every hour of every waking day. Yeah. You know, when Kobe's a rookie and they go into overtime in the playoffs and he has a couple air balls in overtime because his legs were just a little gas. He had played 90 games or something that year, and that was a lot more in high school. You know, that motherfucker went home and went to the high school gym and shot all night long. Janitor let him in, and that's it. Like, he had that obsession. So he wrote this article about Allen Iverson and how obsessed he got with out of respect also for Allen, his rookie year. He said he was in New York, I believe. Lakers are playing the Knicks, and I think either he got a DNP, like didn't play, like coach's decision, or he only played a few minutes. Yeah. And the same night, the Sixers were terrible, but Iverson gave someone 35. And he's watching the highlights in his hotel room. He was just pissed. Yeah. And so he ended up studying. This is I love this sickness. He ended up studying how the great white sharks off the coast of South Africa hunt seals. And he would study it on how he would be able to hunt Allen Iverson.
That is wild.
On the court. And fast forward 5 years later, to my pain, Iverson's MVP year, I'm a little boy.
Right.
We go to the finals against the Lakers. And when it really mattered and they needed some stops, fucking great white shark, Kobe Bryant's locking it down.
Yeah.
And that level of just absolute insanity is the shit that gives breath to my lungs. Because I'm like, that's what it takes to be great. You can have all the talent in the world, right? Like, I know I'm put on this earth born to do what I do. I know that. That's not enough. What are all the things that happen behind the scenes to make sure that if I want to get to this point with this delusional, crazy thought of like, I want to be the greatest of all time. Like, to get to that point, the shit you got to put in, the obsession you got to have, and the ability to be self-critical of every fucking thing you do, every bar there better be through the roof. And guys like Michael, guys like Kobe, guys like Tom Brady, that's how they are. And I'll say, like, I denied that to myself a lot of my life. I think I was always afraid of that gene, looking back on it. Yeah. And I really came into touch with that over the last few years, that like, oh my God, the only, like, when you're talking athletes, put fighters to the side because they're always saying crazy shit to promote fights. Yeah, not saying it's not all real, but it's like a little different. When you look at the other types of athletes that aren't promoting a fight, the only guys when they talk who I understand and I'm like, yes, that's how I think, are Michael, Tom, and Kobe.
Just the hyper obsession.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
Like, they're about that life and they're willing to sacrifice for it. I don't think it's a coincidence, John, that the day Kobe died, the moment I found out that he died, this is kind of crazy shit. Patrick Bet-David had done an interview with him on stage about 5 months before that, in August 2019. Someone had made an 11-minute, 27-minute cut of it. I think I've talked to you about this before, with just the highlights with some music behind it of like Kobe talking about his life and his obsession. And it's amazing. And I was listening to it on the fucking treadmill when Kobe died.
Whoa.
And him talking about, I got off the treadmill to the text of like, yo, Kobe Bryant just died. And listening to him talk about how people around you are not going to understand when you're building, and they're not going to understand how much it takes. They're not going to understand the sacrifices you're going to make. They're not going to understand that you're going to have to go away. They're not going to understand that like this is your life for a while. And make no mistake about it, he said, that time is lost. You can't get it back. You can just try to make up for it. But like, if that is where your mind is and that's what you want to do and that's where your North Star is, you got to be willing to sacrifice to do that. And the people who really know you and really fuck with you will understand that. I don't call Nico as much as I used to in the past. We don't go to the clubs and shut them down as much as we did in 2018 and 2019 by a long shot. But like, this is my ride or die, who, by the way, also works his ass off 7 days a week himself, so he understands. And like, he gets it. Yeah. He doesn't need to listen to my podcast. I have no doubt that he doesn't. He can pick up the phone and call me. But like, he knows what I'm doing. He knows what's happening. And he knows that when it goes, 3 months without us talking, it's not because I don't fucking care.
Right.
You need people that understand that. Yeah. And I'm lucky to have a bunch of those people, because what I don't ever want to get lost in this conversation, that I think people who think like that can kind of get lost on, is all the positives too. I talked to you about all the people who, it's like, you turned me down. You said no. You said I couldn't do that shit. Fuck you. Like, I'm going to use that. There is also such a wide range of people in my life, from family to friends and everything in between, to people who didn't know me, who just believed in me day one. I got a text from a girl the other day who started listening to me at episode 5 when she was 19 years old. Wow. And listens to every episode to this day. Like, those people far outweigh the doubters and everything like that. And so I always make sure I focus on like the greatness and the luckiness of having people like that in my life. And then when the work needs to get done, these people.
Right.
Fuck you.
Huh. So it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
For you. It's so funny because you mentioned the gene that you have, and I do believe you have a specific gene that makes you like this hyper obsession of something. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Like when you say you're obsessed with something, it means different than when somebody else says they're obsessed, right? Like their level of obsession is not even close to yours. He has hypomania for sure. But I wonder if that can be taught, because I've never really seen it, right? I hear it on social. I hear people get really motivated for maybe like a day. But to bring yourself to a level of I don't care about anything else but this one thing, and I'm going to do whatever I can, and I'd rather die than not see myself try and succeed at this one thing. I don't know if you can, maybe there's an age limit, like maybe you can ingrain that in somebody that's younger, but at our age, and we're 30 now, you try to get a 30-year-old to change their life habits, it's very, very difficult. And again, I've seen these stories online of I was 35 and broke and I was miserable at my job, and then I picked up this one thing and now I love it and I'm upset. Maybe you always had that gene in you and you just never expressed it. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of people out there with this like, and I hate to sound like this, but with this like false hope of, no, I can turn the corner tomorrow if I wanted to. I just gotta wake up and do it. I think that's the most dangerous way to live is, oh no, I can do it. I'll just do it tomorrow. It's like the whole Chris Williamson mentions it where good is good, but really bad is actually better than just a little bit bad, because just a little bit bad is not enough to make you move. Right. But really bad is going to kick you in the ass where you're forced to now surpass that a little bit bad to this good space, you know?
Yeah, Chris has a lot of bars on that.
He's got
Chris is doing God's work with a lot of his podcasts right now because he's staying true to exactly himself and the things that make him tick that hopefully other people can relate to through all these algorithmic changes and like doing a great job with it. And I think we need more of Chris out there.
I agree. And I'm a huge Chris fan. So when I say this, I'm not disrespecting him. I do believe, however, you can get stuck in this place of feeling motivation, and then that's enough to satisfy your need. You got your get off. You don't need to actually go work because all you're doing is sitting around and watching him speak or listening and saying, wow, that was really, really, and you feel elated. You feel so good, but you do nothing with that good feeling. It's like watching somebody work out feels really fucking good. It's great to watch somebody bust their ass and be really, really tired and fatigued. You know what's not great is actually feeling tired and fatigued. So now you go and do that thing and you're like, wait, it feels way better to just go, I'm going to go watch somebody do this because this fucking sucks. I do it all the time to myself. But you got to keep yourself in check to realize if you want to eventually make a highlight reel of your life, you got to go through some of this suffering and pain, and it's going to suck during it. But saying it sucks, me saying it's going to suck feels pretty good. When you're going through it, it feels miserable. And it's just, you can't describe the feeling that you're actually in.
A couple things there. You're right. First of all, what does Chris always say too? He's like, do the thing.
That's it.
Go do it. Like, so yes, he's talking about it with people, but he's also very clear. Like, you fuckers can sit here and listen to me say this all day. Exactly. And by all means, please keep doing that, but do it on your own too. Don't just be like, wow, I got my Williamson in today. Modern wisdom. Let's go.
Yeah. That's your
100%
right. Accomplishment for the day.
Yes.
Oh, what did you do? I didn't do, I listened to somebody and I was learning. No, you didn't do anything. That was just your excuse.
But you have to, and I'm a human. I don't want to sound like a robot here. You can attest this. I have my days where I'm like, fuck, I got to do this. Fuck, what I work on and what I do a better job of now is the perspective of things. Like you talk about it, you got to suffer, you got to be miserable and whatever. And I mentioned I don't know if I use those words, but I used parallel words when I was giving my explanation like 10 minutes ago about like the sacrifices you got to make and stuff. But like, I love that Mike Tyson line where he's like, discipline is doing the things you hate to do, but doing it like you love it.
You know, it's so funny because everybody always equates people that are really fit and in shape as being hyper disciplined. Discipline isn't doing something you love. It's doing something you hate. So yeah, you could be in the gym 24/7, you eat super regimented and you appear disciplined, but that doesn't always carry over to life. That doesn't always mean you're a great husband and father and businessman. Right. You love what you do, so you do it over and over and over again. That's not discipline. That's doing what you fucking love.
Yes.
I love drinking. if I drink every weekend, doesn't mean I'm disciplined to it. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
We get lost in that sort of stuff, I think.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I think you have to, but also like, and discipline's important. I don't think you should just throw the word out. But when it comes to what you do, like the overall thing, not all the things in it that maybe you don't like, but the overall thing, the word should be obsession rather than discipline, because discipline is saying you're doing something you don't like to do and maybe you happen to be good at it. And that for me, maybe for other people that works, that would never work for me. You know me, when I get in that studio, I'm alive.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it 90% of what I do. It's still 5 to 10% of what I do. But that 5 to 10%, I am free. When I was at my lowest point, you and I talked about it when I was here last December, but in 2024, but like, you know, bro. When I was at my lowest point where I had just given my body to this thing and the health problems were out of control, my physical was gone, my mental was gone, my spirit, whatever that even means, was gone, and I was just in the gutter. There was, it was a real wake-up call for me because I lost all my confidence in life.
Yep. And
when you lose confidence, that's a dangerous thing. When you lose your confidence and you can't live in your own skin and everything is a challenge and every person around you is a fear rather than an opportunity, you can go to a really dark place. And I did. But the one place where I never lost it, even when I couldn't be as good as I wanted to because I wasn't feeling good, the one place I never lost it was when I went in that studio. That is my court. That is my field. That is my whatever the fucking thing is. Yeah. I go in there, we're going to get this done. And so I knew that. And I was like, all right, obviously, we know the whole story. I've told it to you before, but like, I'm going to invest in myself and fix myself bit by bit, which I have. That confidence from there, though, to rebuild my confidence in life, we're going to use what I do as my North Star to be able to understand that pattern and what's that like. Yeah. What's it like just to be able to like go talk to a person again and not just be like completely in your head and all that. And like, you know, all that is always, it's a continuous thing you work on. Like, I don't think if you feel like you are 1,000% confident and nothing can go wrong, and you walk around like that every day, that's when something can go wrong. But you need to feel confident. And you need to feel like, especially if you're putting the work in and you're doing the right things to be an individual who is confident. And it's not just, by the way, like how much money are you making or how successful are you in your job? Like, how are your relationships? How are your friendships? How is your happiness level in life? You know what I mean? Are you fulfilled in the things you're doing? Yeah. Do you feel like you're spending your fucking, limited time here in a good way? Like, these are the things that give you confidence. And however you can set yourself to do that, do it. For you and me, obviously, it's like going to the gym. I will not compromise on that. I walk into the gym every day at 6:47 or 6:48, depending on how fast I walk there. Right. And like my phone, you're not getting me while I'm in there unless it's an emergency call. Yeah. I can't tell you the last time that happened.
It's also, and we talked about like, is this a gene or is it taught? I do believe that you can teach yourself to do that, right? If you say to yourself, no one is reaching me at this time, right? Maybe in the beginning, if that's not who you once were, that's a difficult transition. But if you continue to tell yourself that when I am in the gym, I am not on my phone. When I am in the gym, I'm not on my phone. That's right. And you do that over and over and over and over again, there is going to be a day where you do not touch it. You don't even want to touch your phone because that's just not what you do. As a man, this is not what you do. It's right. Like, I can't think of all these different things that I don't do because I don't do them. But if I started to pick up that habit and I had to unlearn that habit, it'd be very difficult. But I mean, I'm trying to think of like something I just will never, I don't eat fast food. And I'm not saying that's like I'm better than. I would never pick up the phone and order McDonald's, right? But there's plenty of people that do. So for them to rewire their brain to say, I don't eat McDonald's, and they get really hungry and it's a Friday night, it may be very difficult for them to say that. But for us, like, that wouldn't even cross our conscious mind. You know what I mean?
But I do think people, and I want to get back to your original point in a minute, but let's stay on this. I do think people do have more of an ability to make a decision and hone in on it and think about what that decision is and write, even if they have to. I don't really do this, but I've done it before. Write down what will happen in your life if you do that, and start thinking about it and make that change. Maybe the first 3 days, 6 days, 7 days, 2 weeks sucks, but it changes over. I remember, like, I used to train like a pro athlete for 7 years, and then I got sick and I couldn't train.
Right.
It basically like 4 years of not doing that, suddenly like getting myself up first thing in the morning, Mr. like work until 4:30 in the morning for the last 4 years of my life, sick as a dog. Like that was a big shift, but I woke up one day and did it and said, we're going to start by getting in there at about 7:20 and we'll get it down to 6:45 within a year. I did. Yeah. And like my whole life, I am constantly, what's the word? Like desensitized to all the noise of society and content and all this shit, right? So I removed myself from a lot of it. Yeah. In 2024, when I went back into the gym, I started doing a thing where for the full year, I only worked out with one headphone when I lifted, because I lift and do cardio every day, right? And then December 2024, I took out the headphone. I don't use headphones when I lift ever.
You don't listen to music?
I do not listen to music when I lift.
Oh, you don't touch your phone?
I do not touch my phone. It sits turned over. And so I observe. It's just natural. I observe all the people just on their fucking phone in between sets. Like my favorite is all the fucking girls on the treadmill just like this. And guys too. Like just like this. Just like you're not doing anything.
It does give you a sense of like, you fucking soft bitch. Like I'm here and I'll do it all the time. Like when I'm on my phone, I'm on my phone. But then I turn my phone off and I'm lifting and I look at people and I'm like, that's what I look like? I look like a fucking robot, like a man that doesn't even want to be here, and he looks like that, and that's probably why. I'm like, how could I ever do that again? It takes one moment of stepping out of like this, whatever you want to call it. You used the term before. It's like whatever, like this box that we're all kind of in, and we think it's normal society, and it's really not. We should not be glued to this thing, but we are.
Oh, and you appreciate it when you do what I do now. You appreciate it more than ever, and I see it every day. You know, people, they're glued to it in between sets and things like that. And I am just present. And there's no music coming in because like I get very lost in music. I experience music very viscerally. And so I love that during cardio. Yeah. Like when you see me hit the heavy bag, listening to music, like I'm literally moving with the beat sometimes, like feeling it in flow. Good, and I love that. It's great. Like I don't do cardio without fucking headphones. Like that would be kind of psycho. Right. But like when I'm lifting, that's my time of day to get centered. And just be with my thoughts and focus on each rep and get better and get stronger. And like that would even seem crazy to me 5 years ago to do that, like to lift without it. But now it's like, can't imagine having it in there.
Absolutely. That's so funny that we lose such touch with what we used to see as normal. Like the phone is really corrupted. I went a full 24 hours without my phone. I put it in this room. I went out. I went to the city. It was, I swear to God, I'm not even joking, like one of the best days of my life. I went to a bookstore. I listened to jazz music. I'm talking to strangers. I'm like, this is a new, but you know what the beauty of this was? This switch was instant. It didn't take me time. I wasn't like anxious without my phone. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't stumbling over my words to have a conversation with it. I was so in the, and I loved it. I was present for the first time in I have a sick addiction to this thing, and I'm very willing to admit that, right? Because if there's people out there that deal with the same shit, this is my addiction. It's not drugs, it's not whatever, it's this thing. And I don't know why. I don't know what it brings to me. Like even on if I'm doing the same thing on my computer as it is on my phone, it just feels different. It's fucking weird. Maybe you know what it is, what?
Just a whole lot, you know?
I don't know what it is, man, but I could be texting on my phone. I could be texting on my computer, and it feels different than texting on this thing feels, I just feel gross. I feel
almost like it was designed that way.
Almost like it was designed that way to make me feel fucking numb. It makes me feel numb and lesser than. So anyway, I put my phone down for 24 hours and I felt great. I said it was good. The con was I went right back to my phone the next day and I was as obsessed. I didn't like lose that. You know what I mean? I thought I would maybe get more desensitized and say I don't need this thing. Monday came and I was like, I need this fucking thing.
When you get really in touch with like the unnatural nature of instantaneous access to random people, and you just think about that, like when you're alone in here sometime and your phone's just sitting right there, or when you're on it, just think about what are all the people that I'm randomly living vicariously through right now that I couldn't give one fuck about, that are controlling what I do. And if you put a camera up right there to watch you, what would it look like watching you do this?
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's a really good thought. And Rogan said this a while ago. He said, "Live your days as if there's a documentary. There's a camera on you at all times. You'd act very different." And you wouldn't. I think you would act just as like the best version of yourself because that's who you want to portray. You want an exciting life. Like, don't you want to look back in the day and be like, that was a really fun day? If you were documenting that day, you wouldn't be on your phone the entire time.
That's
You would
right.
go find. We live in one of the coolest areas, I believe, in the country. We would find something to do almost every single day, especially with the lives that we live. Like, we now get paid to do that stuff.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.